Well, folks, I've started on a new journey here, celebrating the impending release of Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths for Magic the Gathering. I've decided I'm going to watch every single Godzilla movie that's ever been made, one after the other, and making a video based off my thoughts of each one. Starting off with this, we, of course, begun where it all began in the world of kaiju with Gojira, the first Godzilla movie, and just some cursory thoughts on the movie after finishing it is, I have to say, it is definitely a masterful work of cinema for its time, and really, anytime you want to rewatch it, it's definitely worth the journey. You see, it has a lot of really interesting plot elements, and of course the score, from just the theme music and everything involved with the production of the movie. It's just really, really well done. You can really, of course, none of us can really feel the true impact of the symbolism and the messaging of the movie, considering it was made as a bit of a commentary on the nuclear testing and fallout from the very tragic events of the end of World War II with the atomic bombing of Japan. But you can definitely see that symbolism all throughout this movie, with Godzilla being this 2 million-year-old, essentially dinosaur that has been awoken from the impact of nuclear weapons, and thus itself becoming this 50-meter tall radioactive monstrosity. And just the way that it is presented, from like the iconic roar, of course, to the very beginning where these ships are being destroyed mysteriously, and this island is ravaged by basically, cinematically, hurricane force weather patterns, which end up being revealed as just literally the presence of Godzilla. And then from there, with them trying to find different ways of destroying Godzilla through military means, as well as doing a deep oceanic bombing of where it was rumored to be, is constructing giant electric fences and just supercharging with electricity, and just absolutely none of it having any effect whatsoever on this unstoppable monster. Really, I would recommend watching this movie just to get yourself hyped for that Ikoria release, because that's the kind of power, that kind of feeling you want to have in your hands as you are trying to play these giant, iconic behemoths and leviathans that are going to be at your fingertips with the release of Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. Eventually, having to resort to a super weapon of destruction known as the Oxygen Destroyer. And the plot points that they go through, the plot line, I should say, that they explore to introducing this weapon and the reasons why its creator did not want it to be used because of its destructive force, and eventually the tragedy of watching Godzilla totally decimate Tokyo and the aftermath and the fallout of that, with the children crying and the people trying to raise up their hopes with songs of perseverance, and convincing this scientist ultimately that even though he wanted to wait until he could use this weapon for good before he ever revealed its existence, the devastation of Godzilla just forcing him to make the ultimate choice against his own morals for the greater good of humanity, and then ultimately sacrificing himself towards the end in order to ensure that his device worked and that no one again would be able to construct such a super weapon, ultimately leading to the destruction of Godzilla in this movie. Now, of course, we know with 35 movies later that this was not in fact the destruction of Godzilla as we know it, but it definitely led to some very powerful imaging and imagery, I should say, as well as the messaging, and just being able to enjoy that ride of nostalgia back into the original Godzilla movie has definitely got me pumped for this new Magic the Gathering set, and I will continue to watch these movies one at a time throughout the history, the evolution, if you will, of the Godzilla franchise and kaiju in general. And I hope that you continue to watch these movies with me after you've watched these videos of me breaking them down. So, until next time, stay just Quintastic.